A chance encounter. Jason's ship, the UEF Endeavour, trembled as it cut through the stormy expanse of the Exon Nebula. The mission was simple: chart an unexplored sector for potential resources. But Jason's instincts told him that something more was waiting out there. The nebula's unpredictable storms and gravity anomalies made it one of the most treacherous regions in known space. Yet Jason welcomed the challenge, the danger of the unknown calling to him like a siren song. As he navigated through the swirling clouds of gas and dust, his ship's sensors picked up an unexpected signal, a distress beacon. It was faint, almost lost in the chaos of the nebula, but unmistakably a call for help. Jason's heart quickened. The sector was supposed to be uninhabited. What was someone doing out here? He followed the signal, adjusting his course through the turbulence. Soon, he spotted the source. A small battered vessel, its hull scared and venting atmosphere. It wasn't human. The design was sleek, almost organic, with glowing blue veins running along its surface. Jason had never seen anything like it. Ignoring the protocol to report back before engaging, he brought the Endeavour alongside the alien ship. He initiated a scan. Life signs detected, barely. There was someone alive in there. Without a second thought, Jason suited up and docked with the alien craft. The interior was dark and cold, emergency lights casting eerie shadows. He moved cautiously, his flashlight cutting through the gloom. In the heart of the ship he found her. An alien woman, unconscious and gravely injured, her blue skin marred by burns and deep cuts. Her breathing was shallow, each breath a struggle. Jason's training kicked in. He had to get her back to the Endeavour and stabilize her fast. With care, he lifted her into his arms, marveling at how light she was. As he carried her through the ship, Jason couldn't help but wonder who she was and what had brought her to this desolate place. He hurried back to his ship, sealing the airlock behind him and heading straight for the medbay. Jason worked quickly, applying Medigel to her wounds and setting up an oxygen supply. The alien's breathing steadied, but she was still unconscious. He watched her, questions swirling in his mind. What species was she? Why was she here? And most importantly, what had happened to her? Hours passed as he monitored her condition, making sure she was stable. The nebula outside raged on, but inside the Endeavour, there was only the sound of her steady breathing and the soft hum of the ship's systems. Finally, as Jason was about to take a break, the alien stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, deep, shimmering blue orbs that seemed to glow in the dim light. Jason moved closer, careful not to startle her. "You're safe," he said softly, using a translation device to convey his words in her language. "I'm Jason. Can you understand me?" The alien blinked, her gaze focusing on him. She seemed confused, disoriented. Slowly, she nodded. "I am Zara," she whispered, her voice weak but clear. "Where am I?" "You're aboard my ship, the UEF Endeavour. I found you drifting in the nebula. Do you remember what happened?" Zora closed her eyes, as if trying to piece together fragmented memories. "My ship. We were attacked by my own people. They didn't want me to succeed." "Attacked by your own people? Why?" Zora struggled to sit up, wincing in pain. Jason gently helped her, propping her up with pillows. "I was on a mission for peace," she said, her voice growing stronger. "But there are those who don't want peace. They want war. They sabotaged my mission, tried to kill me to ensure I wouldn't reach my destination." Jason's mind raced. If what Zora was saying was true, it meant there was a faction within her species that opposed peace with humans. This could be a critical piece of intelligence, something that could change the course of relations between their species. But more than that, he felt a growing concern for this brave alien woman who had risked everything for the chance of peace. "Why were you in the Exon Nebula?" he asked. "It was a secret route, a way to avoid detection. But they found me anyway. I didn't think anyone would come. Thank you for saving me." Jason nodded, still trying to process everything. We need to get you to a safer place. My ship isn't equipped for a long journey, but I can take you to the nearest outpost. Zara shook her head. No, it's too dangerous. They'll be looking for me. If they find me, they'll kill anyone who tries to help. I can't put you at risk. Jason frowned. I'm already involved. I'm not going to just leave you here. We'll figure something out, together. Zara looked at him, her expression softening. You're very kind, Jason. I've heard so many stories about humans, but none of them mention this kindness. Jason smiled slightly. We're full of surprises. Now let's figure out our next move. We're not going to let them win. As they began to plan, Jason couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was just the beginning of something much larger, something that could change both of their worlds forever. Navigating the unknown. Zara remained weak, but determined as she and Jason worked together to plan their next steps. The Endeavor was far from any known human or alien outpost, deep in uncharted space, where help would not come quickly. Jason knew that staying in one place was not an option. Zara's enemies were likely searching for her, and the longer they stayed, the greater the risk. We need to get out of this nebula, Jason said, his fingers flying over the controls as he plotted a course. But we have to be careful. The radiation storms here can fry our systems if we're not careful. Zara nodded, still resting but watching him closely. My ship had specialized shielding to withstand the nebula's radiation, but with the damage it took, it couldn't hold up. Jason glanced at her, a thought forming. We could modify the Endeavor's shields to mimic the frequency your ship used. It's risky, but it might just give us the protection we need to get out of here. Zara's eyes lit up with hope. I can help with that. If we can get the shields to harmonize with the nebula's radiation waves, it should work. They spent the next several hours working side by side, Zara guiding Jason through the modifications. As they worked, Jason found himself increasingly impressed by her intelligence and resourcefulness. Despite her injuries, Zara was sharp and focused, her technical knowledge surpassing his own in many ways. How did you learn all this? Jason asked as they rewired the shield generators. I was trained as an engineer before I joined the diplomatic corps, Zara explained. My people value those who can create and innovate. It's why I was chosen for this mission, to show that we're not just warriors, but builders of a better future. Jason nodded, understanding more about her now. Zara was not just a diplomat. She was a bridge between two worlds, a beacon of hope for a peaceful future. And now that future rested on their ability to survive this ordeal. With the modifications complete, Jason powered up the shields, holding his breath as the system hummed to life. The nebula's radiation battered the ship, but the shields held firm, harmonizing with the storm outside. It's working, Zara said, a small smile of triumph on her face. We should be able to navigate through the worst of the nebula now. Jason returned her smile, feeling a sense of accomplishment. Let's get out of here. The Endeavor moved steadily through the turbulent clouds, Zara monitoring the shields closely as Jason piloted the ship. The journey was tense, with bursts of radiation occasionally rattling the hull, but the modified shields held strong. As they neared the edge of the nebula, the sensors picked up something troubling. Multiple ships converging on their location. Jason's heart sank. Zara's enemies had found them. They're closing in fast, Jason said, his hands tightening on the controls. We need to make a run for it. Zara nodded, her face set with determination. Head for the dark zone just beyond the nebula's edge. The radiation there is even stronger, strong enough to mask our energy signature if we can survive it. Jason didn't hesitate, pushing the Endeavor to full throttle. The ship surged forward, the nebula's edge looming ahead. The enemy ships gained on them, their weapons charging for a strike. Hold on, Jason warned as he steered the ship into the dark zone. The nebula's storms raged around them, but the deeper radiation field provided the cover they needed. The Endeavor disappeared from the enemy sensors, slipping into the shadows. "They lost us," Zara whispered, relief evident in her voice. But Jason knew they weren't safe yet. The radiation was taking a toll on the ship, systems blinking as they struggled to cope. "We can't stay here long," he said. "The shields won't hold much longer." Zara nodded, her mind already working on their next move. "There's a derelict space station not far from here. It's old and abandoned, but it might have what we need to make repairs and regroup." Jason set the new course, trusting Zora's knowledge of this region. As they approached the station, its dark, twisted silhouette came into view, a relic of a forgotten era, drifting in the void. "Let's hope it still has some life left in it," Jason muttered as they prepared to dock. Zara smiled faintly. "If not, we'll make it work. We have to." As the Endeavor docked with the ancient station, Jason felt a sense of foreboding. This place held secrets, and he had a feeling that their fight was far from over. But as long as Zara was with him, he knew they had a chance. Together, they would face whatever dangers awaited them in the darkness. Shadows of the past. The derelict station creaked and groaned as the Endeavor docked, the sound echoing through the corridors like the whispers of ghosts. The station was massive, far larger than Jason had anticipated, with multiple levels and sections extending deep into the dark. Dust coated every surface, and the air was thick with the scent of decay and age. Zara and Jason stepped cautiously onto the station, their weapons at the ready. Despite its age, the station's design was advanced, far beyond anything Jason had seen before. Zara seemed to recognize it, her eyes scanning the walls and terminals with a mix of curiosity and dread. "This station, it's from an ancient civilization that once thrived in this sector," Zara explained as they moved through the corridors. "They were powerful, but they vanished long ago, leaving behind ruins like this. Some say their technology was too advanced, that it led to their downfall." Jason nodded, understanding the implications. If the station held advanced technology, it could be both a blessing and a curse. They needed to be careful, especially with Zora's enemies still searching for them. They made their way to what appeared to be the station's control room, a large chamber filled with dormant consoles and screens. Zara approached the central terminal, brushing off the dust and activating the controls. The terminal flickered to life, displaying alien symbols that she quickly deciphered. "The station's power core is still functional," Zara said, relief in her voice. "We can use it to recharge the Endeavor and make the necessary repairs, but we need to be quick. The core is unstable. If we push it too hard, it could trigger a meltdown." Jason nodded, trusting her judgment. As Zara worked to transfer power to their ship, he explored the room, his flashlight revealing strange markings on the walls. They looked like a mix of star charts and mathematical equations, their meaning lost to time. "This place gives me the creeps," Jason admitted, his voice echoing in the chamber. "What happened to the people who built it?" Zara hesitated before answering. "No one knows for sure. Some believe they ascended to a higher plane of existence. Others think they were wiped out by a cataclysm. All that's left are their ruins and their secrets." Jason's unease grew. The station was a relic of a lost civilization, its purpose and history shrouded in mystery, and now they were relying on its unstable power core to survive. It was a gamble, but they had no other choice. As Zora completed the power transfer, the station's lights flickered, casting eerie shadows across the room. Jason's hand instinctively went to his weapon, his senses on high alert. He had a bad feeling that they weren't alone. "Zara, we need to hurry," Jason urged, his voice tense. "Something doesn't feel right." Zara nodded, her fingers flying over the controls as she finished the process. "There, it's done. We've got enough power to make the repairs and get out of here. Let's head back to the ship." But as they turned to leave, a low rumble echoed through the station, followed by the sound of metal grinding against metal. The station shuddered, and the lights flickered again, this time more violently. "What's happening?" Jason demanded, his heart racing. Zara's eyes widened in fear. The core. It's destabilizing faster than I thought. We need to get out of here now. They ran back through the corridors, the station groaning around them, as if it were alive and in pain. The ancient structure was falling apart, its power core on the verge of collapse. Jason could feel the heat rising, the air growing thick with the scent of burning metal. They reached the airlock just as the station began to shake violently. Jason pushed Zora through first, sealing the hatch behind them as they scrambled back onto the Endeavor. The ship's systems were already online, the power from the station surging through its veins. "Go, go, go," Zora shouted as she strapped in, her voice filled with urgency. Jason didn't need to be told twice. He fired up the engines and launched the ship away from the station, the Endeavor racing into the void as the ancient structure behind them began to implode. The station's power core finally gave out, triggering a massive explosion that lit up the nebula like a supernova. Jason watched the explosion through the viewport, the brilliant light fading into the darkness as quickly as it had appeared. The station was gone, reduced to nothing but debris and memories. Zora slumped in her seat, exhausted but relieved. "That was too close," she muttered. Jason nodded, his heart still pounding. "Yeah, but we made it. What now?" Zora looked at him, her eyes filled with determination. "Now, we keep moving. We're not safe yet, but we have what we need to survive. We'll find a way to stop my enemies, to finish what I started." Jason smiled, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "Then let's do it, together." As they set a new course, leaving the nebula behind, Jason couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was just beginning. The station's destruction had only bought them time, and Zora's enemies would not rest until they were both dead. But as long as they had each other, Jason knew they could face whatever came next. Enemies among us. With the Endeavor repaired and operational, Jason and Zora set a course for a remote human outpost on the edge of known space. The journey was long and fraught with tension, but the quiet moments between them were filled with conversation and a growing sense of camaraderie. Zora was recovering, her strength returning as the days passed, but the burden of her mission weighed heavily on her. Jason couldn't help but admire Zora's resilience. Despite everything she had been through, she remained focused and determined to complete her mission. Her knowledge of engineering and technology had already saved their lives, and Jason knew that she was a valuable ally in more ways than one. As they approached the outpost, the ship's sensors detected an anomaly. A small craft drifting near the edge of the system, its power levels critically low. It was human in design, but there were no signs of life aboard. "What do you think?" Jason asked, studying the readings. "It could be a trap." Zora frowned, her gaze fixed on the craft. "Or it could be someone in need of help, like I was. We should check it out." Jason hesitated, but he knew Zora was right. They couldn't just leave someone to die in the void, not after what they had been through. He adjusted the course, bringing the Endeavor closer to the craft. The ship was an old model, battered and barely holding together. As they docked, Jason prepared for the worst, his hand on his weapon as they entered the airlock. The interior was dark, the life support systems barely functioning. The air was stale, and the lights flickered dimly as they moved through the corridors. They found the crew in the control room, 2 humans, unconscious but alive. Jason quickly checked their vitals, relieved to find them stable. "They're in bad shape, but they'll make it," Jason said, turning to Zora. "We should get them back to the Endeavor and head for the outpost." Zora nodded, but there was a flicker of concern in her eyes. "Be careful, Jason. Something doesn't feel right." Jason frowned, but he knew better than to dismiss her instincts. They carefully transported the unconscious crew to the Endeavor, securing them in the medbay and setting course for the outpost. As they traveled, Jason kept a close eye on their passengers, watching for any signs of deception. But the crew remained unconscious, their condition stable but critical. It wasn't until they were just hours from the outpost that one of them stirred. The man's eyes fluttered open, his expression dazed as he tried to sit up. Jason was at his side immediately, helping him get his bearings. "Easy there," Jason said. "You're safe now. We found your ship drifting near the edge of the system. What happened?" The man groaned, rubbing his temples as he tried to remember. "We were attacked," he said slowly, his voice hoarse. "Pirates, I think. They came out of nowhere, hit us hard. We barely escaped." Jason nodded, his suspicions easing slightly. Pirates were a constant threat in this region, and it wasn't uncommon for ships to fall prey to their raids. Still, something about the man's story didn't sit right with him. "What's your name?" Jason asked. "Derek," the man replied, his voice gaining strength. "Derek Hayes. I'm the pilot. My co-pilot, Jen, is she okay?" "She's alive," Jason assured him. "You both are. We're taking you to a human outpost nearby. You'll be safe there." Derek nodded, relief washing over his face. "Thank you. I don't know how to repay you." Jason waved off the thanks, but Zara's earlier warning echoed in his mind. Something still felt off, and he couldn't shake the feeling that Derek wasn't telling them everything. As they neared the outpost, Jason decided to confront Derek. He found him in the medbay, sitting up and drinking some water. "Derek, I need to ask you something," Jason began, his tone serious. "When we found your ship, it was barely holding together. How did you manage to escape the pirates?" Derek looked up, his expression guarded. "We were lucky. We had some old cloaking tech, barely worked, but it was enough to get us out of their sights. They must have thought we were destroyed." Jason narrowed his eyes. Cloaking technology was rare and expensive, especially for an old ship like Derek's. And if they had it, why hadn't they used it sooner? Before Jason could press further, the ship's alarms blared, and the Endeavor shuddered violently. Jason ran to the bridge, Zara already at the controls. "Pirates!" Zara shouted over the noise, her hands flying over the console. "They must have followed Derek's ship. They're coming in fast." Jason cursed under his breath, his suspicions confirmed. Derek's story had been too convenient, and now they were paying the price. But there was no time for blame, only action. "Get us out of here," Jason ordered, taking his position at the weapons console. "We can't let them take us down." Zara pushed the Endeavor to its limits, the ship's engines roaring as they evaded the incoming fire. The pirate ships were fast and heavily armed, but Zara's piloting skills kept them just out of reach. Jason fired back, targeting the lead pirate ship and scoring a direct hit. The pirate ship exploded in a ball of fire, but more were closing in, their weapons blazing. "Derek, get to the weapons station," Jason shouted as the ship rocked from another hit. Derek hesitated for a moment, then nodded, rushing to the console. He quickly took over, his hands moving with practiced ease as he fired on the attacking ships. The battle was intense, the Endeavor taking heavy damage as they fought to escape. But with Derek's help, they managed to take down several of the pirates, forcing the remaining ships to retreat. As the last of the pirates disappeared into the void, Jason slumped in his seat, exhausted but relieved. They had survived. Barely. But as he looked over at Derek, who was catching his breath at the weapons station, Jason knew that their troubles were far from over. Derek had secrets, and those secrets had nearly gotten them killed. Jason would have to decide whether he could trust Derek, or if the man was more dangerous than the pirates who had just tried to kill them. The betrayal. The Endeavor limped into the human outpost, its hull battered and scarred from the pirate attack. The outpost was a small, fortified station orbiting a barren planet, a haven for travelers and traders in this remote region of space. Jason and Zara wasted no time in securing the ship and getting Derek and his co-pilot, Jen, to the outpost's medical bay. The staff there were efficient, taking over the care of the injured crew while Jason and Zara were left to deal with the aftermath. "We can't stay here long," Zara said as they walked through the outpost's corridors. "The pirates might come back, or worse, my enemies could track us down. We need to repair the ship and move on. Jason nodded in agreement. The Endeavor had taken a beating, and they needed to get it back in shape before they could continue their journey. But there was still the issue of Derek. "I don't trust him," Jason admitted as they reached the outpost control room. "His story doesn't add up. And those pirates, they knew exactly where to find us." Zara frowned, her eyes narrowing. "You think he led them to us?" "I don't know," Jason said with a sigh. "But I'm not taking any chances. We need to keep an eye on him." As they entered the control room, they were greeted by the outpost commander, a grizzled veteran with a stern expression. He had already been briefed on the situation and was prepared to offer assistance. "You're lucky to be alive," the commander said, his voice gruff. "Pirates have been getting bolder in this sector, but this attack was different. They were organized, focused, like they were after something specific." Jason exchanged a glance with Zora. The commander's words only confirmed his suspicions. "Can you help us with repairs?" Jason asked, changing the subject. "We need to get back on our way as soon as possible." The commander nodded. "We'll do what we can, but it'll take some time. Your ship took a lot of damage." "Understood," Jason replied. "In the meantime, we'll stay on the outpost, but we'd like to keep our presence here as low profile as possible." The commander agreed, and Jason and Zara were given temporary quarters while the Endeavor was repaired. They spent the next few days keeping a low profile, avoiding attention, and watching Derek closely. Derek, for his part, seemed genuinely grateful for their help. He spent most of his time in the medbay, checking on Jen and recovering from his injuries. But Jason couldn't shake the feeling that Derek was hiding something. It wasn't until the third night that Jason's suspicions were confirmed. He was in the control room, going over the ship's repair logs, when the outpost's security alarms suddenly blared. Jason jumped to his feet, his heart racing as he grabbed his weapon and ran towards the source of the commotion. He found Zora and the outpost's security team in the docking bay, where Derek was trying to steal a small shuttle. The shuttle's engines were powered up, ready to launch, but the outpost's security force had surrounded it, weapons drawn. "Derek, what the hell are you doing?" Jason shouted as he approached, his weapon aimed at the shuttle. Derek was in the cockpit, his face twisted with desperation. "I'm sorry, Jason," he called out, his voice shaking. "But I have to do this. They're coming for me, for all of us. I can't let them find you." "Who's coming?" Jason demanded. "Who are you running from?" Before Derek could answer, the shuttle's engines roared to life, and the craft shot forward, crashing through the docking bay doors and escaping into space. Jason cursed, rushing to the control panel to track the shuttle. But it was too late. Derek had activated the shuttle's cloaking device, disappearing from their sensors. "He's gone," Zara said, her voice filled with frustration. "And now we don't know who he was working for, or why they wanted him." Jason slammed his fist against the console, anger boiling inside him. Derek's betrayal had put them all at risk, and now they were left with more questions than answers. But one thing was clear. They couldn't stay at the outpost any longer. Whoever Derek was running from would soon be coming for them, and they needed to be far away when that happened. "We need to leave," Jason said, turning to Zora. "As soon as the ship is ready, we're getting out of here." Zora nodded in agreement. "And next time, we'll be more careful about who we trust." With the Endeavor nearly repaired, Jason and Zora prepared to continue their journey, determined to stay one step ahead of the enemies closing in on them. But as they left the outpost behind, Jason couldn't shake the feeling that Derek's betrayal was only the beginning. There were forces at work in the galaxy, powerful and dangerous, and they were about to find themselves caught in the middle of a conflict far bigger than they had ever imagined. The gathering storm. The Endeavor was finally back in space, its repairs complete, and its crew ready to move forward. But the sense of unease lingered as they left the outpost behind, heading deeper into uncharted territory. Zara had been quiet since Derek's escape, her thoughts clearly preoccupied with the implications of his betrayal. Jason wanted to reassure her, to tell her that they would figure it out, but he knew that words would do little to ease the tension between them. As they traveled, Jason spent most of his time on the bridge, scanning the surrounding space for any signs of pursuit. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, and they couldn't afford to let their guard down for even a moment. But despite the constant vigilance, there was a growing sense of foreboding, as if they were being watched by unseen eyes. Jason's instincts were on high alert, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen, something that would change the course of their journey forever. It wasn't long before those fears were realized. As they approached a dense asteroid field, the ship's sensors picked up an anomaly, a faint signal, barely detectable but unmistakably artificial. Jason adjusted their course to investigate, his curiosity piqued despite the potential danger. "What do you think it is?" Zara asked, her voice tinged with caution. "I'm not sure," Jason replied, his eyes fixed on the readings. "But it's worth checking out. It could be another derelict station, or maybe a ship in distress." Zara nodded, though her expression remained wary. "Just be careful. We can't afford any more surprises." The Endeavour cautiously entered the asteroid field, navigating through the rocky debris with precision. The signal grew stronger as they approached, revealing a small, heavily damaged ship hidden among the asteroids. Jason brought the Endeavour closer, scanning the ship for life signs. To his surprise, there was a faint reading. Someone was alive aboard the wreck. "I'm going over there," Jason said, rising from his seat. "Zara, you stay here and keep the ship ready to go in case things go south." Zara looked like she wanted to argue, but she nodded. "Just be quick. We don't know who or what we're dealing with." Jason donned his EVA suit and prepared to board the derelict ship, his weapon at the... Finally, he found it, a small chamber at the heart of the ship, sealed off from the rest of the wreck. The door was damaged but still operational, and Jason forced it open, his weapon raised as he stepped inside. What he found shocked him. A woman lay unconscious on the floor, her body battered and bruised. She was human, but her clothes were of an alien design, and her skin was covered in strange markings, tattoos or brands that glowed faintly in the dim light. Jason quickly checked her vitals, relieved to find that she was still alive. But as he examined her injuries, he realized that she had been tortured. Her body bore the signs of deliberate, cruel abuse. Whoever she was, she had been through hell. Jason carefully lifted the woman, carrying her back to the Endeavour. Zara met him at the airlock, her eyes widening in shock when she saw the condition of the woman. "What happened to her?" Zara asked, her voice filled with concern. "I don't know," Jason replied, carrying the woman to the medbay. "But we need to help her. She's been through something terrible." Zara quickly began treating the woman's injuries, using the medbay's advanced equipment to stabilize her condition. As she worked, Jason searched the wrecked ship's logs, hoping to find some clue as to who the woman was and what had happened to her. What he found only deepened the mystery. The ship's logs were heavily corrupted, but Jason was able to piece together fragments of the last entries. The ship had been on a secret mission, its crew tasked with retrieving a valuable artifact from a remote hostile world. But something had gone wrong. The crew had been ambushed, their ship disabled, and they had been hunted down one by one. The woman was the only survivor, and she had been captured by the enemy, an unknown force that had tortured her for information before leaving her to die in the wreck. But the most disturbing part of the logs was the mention of the artifact. The crew had been transporting something of immense power, something that the enemy had been desperate to obtain. And according to the logs, the artifact was still aboard the wreck, hidden in a secure vault. Jason's heart raced as he realized the implications. The artifact was still out there, hidden among the wreckage, and whoever had attacked the ship would stop at nothing to get it. He quickly relayed the information to Zara, who was just finishing up her work on the woman. "We need to find that artifact before someone else does," Jason said, his voice urgent. "Whatever it is, it's dangerous." Zara nodded, her expression grim. "But we also need to protect her," she said, gesturing to the unconscious woman. "She's been through enough already." "We'll do both," Jason promised. "But we need to move fast. Whoever did this will be coming back, and we need to be ready." With the woman stabilized, Jason and Zara returned to the wrecked ship, determined to find the artifact and uncover the truth behind the attack. But as they searched the wreckage, a new threat emerged, one that would push them to their limits and force them to confront the true power of the artifact they were about to find. The final stand. The artifact was unlike anything Jason had ever seen. It was small, about the size of a human fist, and made of a strange, shimmering material that seemed to shift and change colors as he looked at it. It pulsed with a faint, rhythmic energy, as if it were alive, and Jason could feel its power thrumming through the air. He and Zara had found it in the secure vault, hidden among the wreckage of the derelict ship. The vault had been heavily fortified, but the ship's damage had weakened the structure enough for them to force it open. As they carefully retrieved the artifact, Jason couldn't shake the feeling that they were holding something incredibly dangerous, something that could change the course of history if it fell into the wrong hands. "We need to get this back to the Endeavor," Jason said, his voice tense, "and we need to figure out what it is and why it's so important." Zara nodded in agreement, her eyes never leaving the artifact. "I'll run some scans on it when we get back to the ship. But we need to be careful. This thing feels wrong." Jason couldn't help but agree. There was something unsettling about the artifact, something that made the hair on the back of his neck stand on end. But there was no time to dwell on it. They needed to get back to the Endeavor and prepare for whatever was coming next. As they returned to the ship, Jason kept a close watch on their surroundings, his senses on high alert. He knew that whoever had attacked the derelict ship would be back, and they would stop at nothing to get the artifact. But as they reached the Endeavor and secured the artifact in the medbay, where the woman was still unconscious, Jason realized that their enemy was already here. The ship's alarms blared, and the Endeavor shuddered as it was hit by a powerful energy blast. Jason and Zara rushed to the bridge, their hearts pounding as they prepared for the worst. On the view screen, they saw the source of the attack, a massive, heavily armed warship, bristling with weapons and surrounded by a fleet of smaller fighters. The warship bore no insignia, but its design was sleek and menacing, clearly the work of a powerful and ruthless force. "We're outgunned," Zara said, her voice grim. "We can't take them head-on." Jason knew she was right. The Endeavor was fast and agile, but it was no match for a warship of this size. Their only chance was to outmaneuver their enemy, to use their speed and wits to escape. But the warship's commander wasn't giving them a chance. Another volley of energy blasts rocked the Endeavor, and Jason knew that they couldn't take much more punishment. "We need to find a way out of here," Jason said, his mind racing as he scanned the area for any possible escape routes. "Zara, can you plot a course through the asteroid field? It's our only shot." Zara nodded, her fingers flying over the controls as she calculated a trajectory. The asteroid field was dense and dangerous, but it could provide the cover they needed to evade their pursuers. "I've got a course," Zara said, her voice tense. "But it's risky. We'll need to fly close to the asteroids. One wrong move, and we're done for." "Do it," Jason ordered. "We don't have a choice." The Endeavor shot forward, racing towards the asteroid field with the warship in hot pursuit. The smaller fighters swarmed around them, their weapons blazing as they tried to cut off their escape. Jason fired back, taking down several of the fighters, but more kept coming, their attacks relentless. The warship was closing in, its massive guns preparing to unleash another devastating barrage. But Zara's piloting skills were unmatched. She weaved the Endeavor through the asteroid field with precision, using the massive rocks as cover as they dodged and evaded the enemy fire. The warship's guns fired, but the energy blasts missed their mark, hitting the asteroids instead and sending debris flying in all directions. Jason could feel the tension in the air. the stakes higher than ever. The artifact was in their possession, but their enemies were closing in, determined to take it from them at any cost. As they reached the heart of the asteroid field, Jason knew that they had to make a stand. They couldn't keep running forever. The warship was too powerful, too determined. If they didn't find a way to stop it, they would be overwhelmed. "Zara, bring us around," Jason said, his voice calm and steady despite the chaos. "We're going to face them head-on." Zara looked at him in surprise, but she trusted his judgment. She brought the Endeavor around, positioning the ship to face the oncoming warship. Jason activated the ship's main weapons, targeting the warship's vulnerable points. The asteroid field gave them some cover, but it also made their movements more predictable. They would have one shot at this, one chance to take down the warship before it could destroy them. As the warship closed in, Jason fired the Endeavor's main guns, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts at the enemy ship. The shots hit their mark, striking the warship's engines and causing a massive explosion. But the warship was still coming, its weapons blazing as it fired back at the Endeavor. The ship rocked violently as it took the hits, but Jason and Zara held their ground, determined to see the battle through to the end. Finally, with a last, desperate shot, Jason targeted the warship's bridge, sending a powerful energy blast straight into its heart. The warship's shields flickered and failed, and the bridge erupted in a fiery explosion. The warship began to break apart, its systems failing as it was consumed by fire. The remaining fighters broke off their attack, fleeing into the void as their command ship was destroyed. Jason and Zara watched in silence as the warship disintegrated, their hearts pounding with the adrenaline of the battle. They had won, but the cost had been high. As the wreckage of the warship drifted into the asteroid field, Jason knew that their journey was far from over. The artifact was still in their possession, and their enemies would not rest until they had reclaimed it. But for now, they had survived. And as they set course for a new destination, Jason and Zara knew that they would face whatever challenges lay ahead together. Their bond had been tested in the fires of battle, and they had emerged stronger than ever. No matter what dangers awaited them in the uncharted reaches of space, they were ready to face them head-on. For they were more than just a crew, they were a family, and nothing could tear them apart.